It was 2:47 in the morning, the kind of hour that makes houses feel bigger and colder, and when I shook the formula, it rattled like a tin drum full of air. Ever had a sound gut you like that clean through, like it knew exactly where your fear lived? Here's the ugly question that slid in behind it. What do you do when your baby is starving now and your bank app says you've got $3.67 to your name? I did the thing every book says not to do because desperation turns smart people into gamblers. I added warm water to the last dust in 3 bottles and swirled it until it looked like cloudy tap water. And I smiled anyway, and Rose latched because she trusted me. And then she tasted the lie and pushed the nipple away with those furious little hands, and she wailed, and I felt that sound in my bones. I slid down the kitchen cabinet to the tile and pressed her against my chest and hummed the lullaby my mom used to hum when the power went out, and I said a sentence I had no clue how to make true. I'm going to fix this. My phone lit my face like a cheap lantern. Pride is a wonderful winter coat until the wind finds the seam, you know what I mean. I scrolled my contacts, hovered over my brother's name, Travis, 2 hours away with a toddler and a wife who wakes before the sun. And I hated asking him, I hated it more than anything. But that hunger hiccup shuddered out of Rose, and I typed anyway. Hey, I ran out of formula and I don't get paid until Friday. Do you have any, or could you float me a little so I can grab some? I hate asking, I just don't know what else to do, please. I hit send and closed my eyes, because sometimes you can't watch the thing you just set on fire. If it were you, what would you have done? The reply dinged at 4:17. It started with the word you never want to see when your dignity is hanging by dental floss. Hello, I think you have the wrong number. My hands went numb. Before I could apologize, the bubbles popped up again. But I saw your message. Are you and the baby okay for tonight? Can I help? Can I help? From a stranger. I typed the polite thing you're supposed to say at 4 a.m. to a person you don't know. I'm so sorry. Please ignore this. I didn't mean to bother you. And the stranger sent back, it's really okay. I'm awake. I can leave formula on your porch or have it delivered. No pressure. Just tell me what you need. I asked for his name because even drowning people like to know who's pulling the rope. He wrote Sebastian. I told him I was Aurora and my baby was Rose, and he texted, "That's a beautiful name," and somehow the way he wrote it made the floor steady for a second. I sent my address with a shaking thumb and added, "Please just leave it on the porch," and he wrote, "I'll be there in 20. I stood there in that tiny living room with the sagging curtain rod and the thrift store couch and the feeling that I was about to step into a different version of my life. He didn't come in hot. He parked under the oak at the end of the lane, stepped out in dark jeans and a coat, and stopped at my gate like he knew that pause mattered. When I opened the door, he lifted a bag like a truce flag. I wasn't sure what kind she takes, so I grabbed a couple and a pack of bottles just in case. I brought him in because it was cold, and because the kindness in his eyes didn't ask for anything in return. I measured powder like it was gold dust, snapped the lid, and Rose drank with these greedy little gulps that sounded like relief. I cried quietly into my sleeve so I wouldn't get tears in her hair. "Why would you do this?" I asked for a stranger. He looked at the floor the way men look when they're pulling a truth up by the roots. "Someone did it for my family when things were rough," he said, and I never forgot. "No child should go hungry if I can help it." He left after tea and the kind of conversation that doesn't perform, and at the door he said, "I'll check on you in the morning if that's okay." And I nodded because sometimes your head answers before your mouth. At 7:03 he texted, "Good morning, how are you?" And Rose and I sent a picture of a milk-drunk baby with one fist in the air, like a tiny victorious boxer, and he wrote, "She's perfect," and something thawed I didn't know was frozen. That's how it started. A stranger with a can of formula and a soft voice, then little check-ins tucked between my diner shifts and Rose's naps. Then I'd look up and there he'd be at 10:15 sliding into the window booth at Sage Hollow Diner, nodding at Doris and the boys from the hardware store like he belonged. He never asked to sit in my section, yet somehow his coffee always found its way to my hand. He noticed things without making me feel studied. The gutter that banged when the wind came off the lake, the faucet that ticked like a cheap metronome, the porch step that wobbled like trouble waiting to happen. I was cleaning out my trunk and found a toolkit, and if I tightened that, he'd say, "Or I bought too many oranges, please help me not waste them." We both knew what he was doing, tucking my pride in gently so it wouldn't bruise, and I let him, because he did it like reverence, not rescue. One soft Sunday, we took Rose to the lakeside park. Cherry blossoms hung on like the last confetti after a long party. He pushed the stroller in that way that says, "I won't take over, I'll match your pace," and when she fussed, he scooped her in one smooth move and played peekaboo so earnest it made both of us laugh. We sat on a bench under a pink cloud, and he told me I used to think success meant complicated things, big rooms, big numbers, people using big words to hide small hearts. But lately I just want good days that don't feel like a performance. He didn't say it to sell me a version of himself, he said it like he needed a witness. He didn't talk much about work. I didn't pry. I liked that we weren't resumes to each other. He did say his mom's name was Rose, and that when he heard my daughter's name, he felt something align inside him, and I saw his mouth shake a little when he said it, so I didn't ask for more. If it were you, would you have trusted him by then, or kept your hand on the brake? Then the town started doing what towns do. If you've never lived in a place where the salon dryers run 4 days a week and the church bulletin doubles as the local newspaper, you might not understand how fast a rumor can sprint. People said things they thought I couldn't hear, or maybe they wanted me to hear. He dresses like his clothes don't have price tags. He tipped my nephew a 20 on a $5 check. I saw him fix her gutter for free. What's his angle? I tried to laugh it off. Gossip is just wind until it isn't, until it gets grit in it. And here's the pivot. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. There was a knock at my door one afternoon. Polite. Precise. I opened it to a man in a suit with a face like a locked drawer. "Miss Evans, I'm looking for Mr. Davenport. Is he here?" The name clipped me like a wing mirror. "He doesn't live here," I managed. The man nodded, not really listening. "I'm his assistant. We need his signature on a time-sensitive document for a multi-million-dollar acquisition. Davenport Industries. I'm sure you understand." He slid a manila envelope into my mailbox like a magician's card and walked back to a black town car while I stood there trying to swallow air. Assistant. Acquisition. Mr. Davenport. The words clicked together like a code I'd been holding upside down. I went to work that night, and Monica pulled me into the back by the freezer. "Honey, is your Sebastian, the Sebastian Davenport, because folks are saying he is. I saw him in a magazine last year, and the world tipped 5 degrees to the left. I walked home in a fog thick with other people's sentences. Lucky girl. Charity case. Better be careful. Don't get used to it. Do you think that's fair?" He showed up with Italian takeout from the next town over, the kind of place I only go on birthdays, and he saw it before I spoke, the guard dogs behind my eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, and I hated the wobble in my voice. He said the thing men say when they did not intend harm and still caused it. I didn't lie, I omitted. I should have said it sooner. I was afraid, and when I asked, afraid of what he said, that you'd see the company and the accounts before you saw me, that you'd ask for something you didn't really want to ask for, that I'd ruin the only place in my life where I was just a man drinking coffee. We didn't yell, we didn't throw. We stood in my living room like two people on opposite roofs, with a street between them and nothing but hand signals. He said he was falling in love with me, and I believed him because the words shook, but belief and safety are cousins, not twins, so I asked him for time. He left the food on the counter, and the next day it tasted like guilt and butter. I pulled out a notebook where I'd been writing letters to my someday person since Rose was born, the kind where you ask for things you don't believe you'll get: patience, honesty, someone who would love my girl like she was their own. I cried until my throat ached, then I called Travis. "Don't let other people's opinions steal your joy," he said, and it landed like a plank across a flooded ditch. I texted Sebastian to meet me at sunrise at the Willow Grove, where my mom and I used to sit and make up stories about strangers because I needed her ghost at my back. He showed up with wildflowers tied with a string, daisies, and baby's breath, and one red rose tucked in the middle like a secret, and we stood under those drooping branches with the light coming soft through the leaves, and said the thing out loud. At the same time, I love you. He told me his mother's name wasn't just a sweet coincidence, it was the compass that turned him toward that 4 a.m. text. And I handed him one of my letters, and he read the line about wanting someone to help me build something beautiful out of my broken pieces. And he said, "We can build it. I'm here." He pulled a small box from his coat. I know to some people it was fast. Grief and joy are both time machines. We'd lived 10 years in those few weeks. The ring looked like a tiny rose caught in frost, and he said, "Will you marry me? Will you let me be a father to Rose?" And I said, "Yes," because my whole body answered before my brain could file an objection. Yeah, that happened. Did the town stop talking? Of course not. But people started watching with less suspicion and more curiosity. At our wedding, 3 months later in the backyard of the old Granger place, the one that always felt like a museum. Until that day, there were white chairs facing a gazebo, dressed in roses and ivy, and a table with a handwritten sign that said, "In gratitude, kindness given, kindness shared." We'd made little bags with notes to the people who had helped me when the world was heavy. Mrs. Garcia from next door, Monica from the diner, Pastor Mike who fixed my car battery one winter morning in the church lot. Sebastian announced the Rose Foundation during his toast, a fund for single parents in our county to help with child care and classes and no questions emergencies. I watched 3 women in the back put their hands over their mouths because you could see the end of the month moving one day closer. We danced to Brahms' Lullaby because his mother used to hum it, and I had hummed it on that kitchen floor when I made a promise I had no idea how to keep. Doris cried into a linen napkin and told me I looked like my mother. Walter from the hardware store argued with Ed about who taught Sebastian to sand a sticking door. Tina from the diner leaned over and whispered, "You win." And I whispered back, "It's not a game," but I squeezed her hand anyway, because humans complicate everything, and love is patient with that. I can hear some of you from here. Power imbalance, you're saying. Secrets. The way money pulls a chair up to the table whether you invited it or not. You're not wrong. Let me ask you something that might make you mad, or maybe it'll make you brave. I don't know. Was he wrong for keeping his last name to himself at first? Or was I wrong for letting other people's narratives slip under my skin? Is it inherently dangerous when a billionaire falls for a waitress? Or do we use those words like a shield when we're afraid to admit that sometimes good men exist and sometimes they bring formula at 4 a.m.? Do you think it's fair to measure love with a calendar? Or should we measure it by who shows up when the floor falls out? Who learns the rhythm of your baby's cry? Who fixes the thing that's been driving you crazy without making a speech about it? Here's what I know now, and you don't have to agree. Asking for help didn't make me weak. It made me a mother who did her job. Offering help didn't make him a savior. It made him a man who remembered the kid he used to be. Money didn't solve my character, and love didn't pay my light bill, but together they built a bridge where before there was just water. And now when Rose laughs at ducks from the back seat, I don't think about the empty rattle in that can. I think about a little ding at 4:17 from a stranger who wrote, "I can help." So tell me the truth in the comments, because stories mean nothing if they don't start a conversation. If it were you, would you have opened the door? Would you have said yes after 3 months? Do you think that's fair, or do you think we crossed a line we shouldn't have crossed? Have you ever sent a message into the dark and gotten back more than you bargained for? Did a secret nearly blow up something good and somehow make it stronger later? I want to hear the messy parts, the holy parts, the parts that still ache when it rains. If this reminded you that small kindness can rewrite the whole script hit, like so it finds the next person standing in a dark kitchen at a bad hour. Subscribe if you want more real stories told, the way we live them, a little crooked, a little loud, and sometimes glorious, and leave your take below. Argue with me, agree with me, tell me your 4 a.m. moment and what you did next. Because that's the point, right? Deciding what kind of neighbors we'll be when the house is quiet and the baby's hungry and the world isn't kind yet.